Will this revolutionary technology explode onto the scene in 2025? Today, we're going to talk about artificial general intelligence, some bold claims that have been made about it for this year, and how it all relates to Bible prophecy. Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, share, and restack buttons. So will artificial general intelligence explode onto the scene this year and change the world we live in? Let's start with this right here. This is from Forbes. It says, Altman tells ChatGPT fans to stop the hype on AGI and superintelligence, or artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. And I find this very interesting because Sam Altman has basically been hyping AI and artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence for several years now. And part of the reason these ChatGPT fans are on the hype train is based on things he's said. But let's read into this and see what is being talked about. So it says achieving artificial general intelligence, or AGI. It says here, another name for superintelligence is the driving mission of ChatGPT maker OpenAI. The accomplishment represents the holy grail in the world of machine learning, and it's a priority for tech giants like Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft. In a recent post on X, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman tried to quell rumors and crush the hype surrounding superintelligence and AGI, where fans and enthusiasts are saying it's already here. The attempt to quiet the noise went viral, receiving 3.1 million views as of this writing. Fortune reports that rumors of AGI, which is a type of artificial intelligence that can understand, learn, and perform intellectual tasks like a human, has been gaining publicity and post. And that's the key. It's like a human. This is not its own intelligence. It's just a sophisticated algorithm. When it talks about learning, when we're talking about AI learning, really what a better way to phrase that would be, the algorithm is making adjustments. It's making corrections based on new information fed into it, based on feedback it receives from human beings and from information created by human beings. So that is different from its sentient, its conscious, its reasoning. And it's very hard to tell the difference because of how sophisticated these algorithms are, but this is not, again, a conscious being like a human being is. But this says, is the hype warranted or a wish from ChatGPT enthusiasts? Altman said in a recent blog post that the company behind ChatGPT knows, quote, how to build AGI as we have traditionally understood it. He went on to say, we are beginning to turn our aim beyond that to superintelligence in the true sense of the word. We love our current products, but we are here for the glorious future. With superintelligence, we can do anything else. And so, which is, again, read what he's saying here, and then he's saying, hey, stop the hype, right? Stop the hype. But he goes on. It says, we are not going to deploy AGI next month, nor have we built it, Altman declared. He says, Twitter hype is out of control again. We have some very cool stuff, but please chill and cut your expectations 100x. This goes on. It says, Turing Award winner Geoffrey Hinton says, quote, superintelligence is for AGIs that are better than humans. 20 years ago, I think people would have happily agreed that systems with the ability of ChatGPT 4 or Google's Gemini had achieved general intelligence comparable to that of humans, Hinton shares. By the way, the Turing Award is technology's Nobel Prize. Quote, being able to answer more or less any question in a sensible way would have passed the test, but now that AI can do that, people want to change the test. And I think that's a valid criticism because, yes, AI in many ways, we've seen AI chatbots that people can have a conversation with those and think there's another human being on the other side, and it's really AI they're conversing with, so they can't tell the difference. In many ways, that passes this Turing test for meeting or matching human intelligence. But again, remember, it's an algorithm feeding back what's been input into the system already. It's not really thinking in the sense that human beings do. And so we see all this hype about what artificial and general intelligence can do, such as, well, we're here for the glorious future where we can do anything we want, right? Everything's going to be possible. And then people see headlines like this, which was from last week. Apple disables AI notifications for news in its beta iPhone software. The move comes after BBC highlighted that Apple's AI system had twisted its news notifications to display inaccurate facts, right? That's Orwellian speak for falsehoods or untrue statements, right? I don't know what inaccurate facts are. If they're inaccurate, then they can't be facts. But what do you expect from the mainstream corporate media? But people see headlines like this and they think, well, AI is a bunch of hype because people have been telling me this is going to replace human beings. It's going to take all these jobs. Yet it can't even give me a summary of a news article without messing it up. And so then people look at headlines like this that say, well, 59% of the global workforce needs reskilling by 2030 as AI reshapes jobs. Or we see this one, the World Economic Forum says AI will displace millions of jobs with 41% of global companies planning cuts. We've seen all sorts of ideas pushed out that billions of people globally will lose their jobs. They'll become obsolete in the face of AI. And people say, this is all a bunch of hype. So is AI, or artificial general intelligence and its transformation of the world, is this a bunch of hype? If you're saying, is that all of that going to happen in 2025? I believe, yes, the answer is it's a bunch of hype. But if you're saying, in general, in the future, what it will achieve, is that a bunch of hype? I would say the answer is no. And I would point people to this passage from the Bible. This is from Matthew chapter 24, verse 8. It's Jesus speaking about the time right before his coming, and he says, but all this is only the first of birth pains with more to come. So he likened the signs that would occur, that would appear before his coming at the end of the tribulation, as being akin to birth pains. Now, if we plot birth pains on a chart, on a graph, what we get is an exponential curve. So I pulled this. This is from the Khan Academy. It's what an exponential growth curve looks like. So it starts off and it looks like you're growing exponentially down here, but it appears that nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, we see this sudden change. We've talked about this before with Chris Martinson's illustration of the eyedropper at Yankee Stadium. In one first minute, there's one drop, and then you double that drop every minute. And within 50 minutes, the stadium is overflowing with water. Whereas most people, their minds think in a linear fashion. They think, well, it'll take years to fill that stadium with that eyedropper, because they're just thinking one drop at a time, not that compounding growth and what's going to happen from it. And I believe the same thing is happening with AI. When we read all these news headlines about AI and how it's going to transform the world, and all of the hype that came with ChatGPT, 2-3 years ago, whenever it was that it really hit big and your average person was using ChatGPT, then all of these people seem to think, well, the world hasn't transformed yet. I keep hearing all these things, but think back to other technologies such as the internet. I remember during the dot-com boom, you had a lot of people saying, well, the internet's going to be transformative. It's going to do all these things. And people said, well, it's a bunch of hype. It'll be gone in a year, right? The long-term trends for that or forecast for that proved to be correct. But many people automatically assume that all those things that would happen as a result 10, 20 years later would occur right then and there. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people are making now, is they're hyping this and they're extrapolating what's going to happen in the future back into the present time. They're putting the timeline, they're moving that timeline up much faster, and they're also thinking in a linear fashion. If we're going to be at a certain point in 10 years, well, we should be much further along now. And that's the wrong way to think about this. Let's think about a technology that, say, it doubles in power every year. So by year 10, that technology would be 1,024 times more powerful than it is today. And so most people who think in an incremental fashion in terms of 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, they think, well, that technology that's 1,000 times more powerful in 10 years, within 2 years, it needs to be 200 times more powerful. But that's not the way that this works. In year 5, if you have a technology that's doubling every year, by year 5, it's actually more like 16x than 1,000x, which is just a little bit more than 1.5% of the total power of where that technology is headed in year 10. 5 years in, halfway through the process. Likewise, 7 years into those doublings, only 6.25% of the total power that would be reached in year 10 has been achieved. But most people think, well, in year 7, you'll be 700 times more powerful if you're going to be 1,000 times more powerful in year 10. But in reality, it's only 64 times more powerful. That's the power of exponential change. Rather than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, and on, so on. 50% of the total growth of that technology occurs in the final year. And so that's beyond what most people can comprehend. We're not hardwired to think in that fashion. And it means that the changes that AI and these other technologies that we see advancing right now are going to bring is going to occur very suddenly. It's going to be very shocking to much of the world. And that shouldn't surprise us, because that aligns perfectly with what the Bible tells us about the times in which we live. I want to take a look at this right here. This is from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 2 through 3. It says, "For you know quite well that the day of the Lord's return will come unexpectedly like a thief in the night. When people are saying, 'Everything is peaceful and secure,' then disaster will fall on them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begin, and there will be no escape." So what's coming, guys, the changes that are coming are going to be shocking. They're going to come suddenly upon the world. That's what happens when you're on an exponential curve, when you're witnessing exponential change like we are right now. And so this is going to catch much of the world unaware. However, I'd like to look at the verses that follow this, because we read this in Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 4 through 8. It says, "But you," meaning born-again Christians, people who are reading the Bible, people who are paying attention to what's taking place in the world, "you aren't in the dark about these things, dear brothers and sisters, and you won't be surprised when the day of the Lord comes like a thief. For you are all children of the light and of the day. We don't belong to darkness and night. So be on your guard, not asleep like the others. Stay alert and be clear-headed. Night is the time when people sleep and drinkers get drunk. But let us who live in the light be clear-headed, protected by the armor of faith and love, and wearing as our helmet the confidence of our salvation. Guys, if you read the Bible, if you understand the word, you know Jesus and the prophets said to look for certain signs, that certain things would occur before the second coming of Jesus at the end of the tribulation, that there were certain events that would mark the 7-year tribulation period. And Jesus says in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, when you begin to see all these things take place, know that I am near, I am right at the door. Guys, we see those things right now. We see many of the things that he talked about. We see the nation of Israel back in the land of Israel once again for the first time in many centuries. So from the year 70, when the Roman legions destroyed Jerusalem, to the year 1948, there was no nation of Israel. Christians could not point to that as a sign indicating the nearness of the return of Jesus. That's 93% of Christian history. There was no nation of Israel in the land of Israel. The modern day nation state of Israel did not exist. The Jewish people in control of Jerusalem. Jesus said, Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles come to an end. And then he said, I will come back. From the year 70 to the year 1967, a series of Gentile kingdoms controlled Jerusalem until the Jewish people once again came back into possession of Jerusalem. We see so many other signs, guys. We see the gospel being proclaimed all over the earth. We see the formation of the Gog of Magog alliance. We see a revived Roman Empire in the early stages. We see all of these things that Jesus and the prophets indicated would mark the times right before Jesus returns, and we see them right in our day and time. So just as 1 Thessalonians 5 says, you won't be in the dark of this. This won't come as a surprise to you. I'm telling you, all of this is going to come as a shock to the world who isn't paying attention to this, and also who thinks in a linear fashion and thinks, well, the next 100 years will be much like the last 100 years. Yes, we've come to expect technological progress. We've come to expect these things. But we're not going to have this shocking move to this higher level of disruptive technology. Yet we're likely to see perhaps the equivalent of all the progress of the entire Industrial Revolution crammed into probably a 5-year period. Think of how disruptive and shocking that will be, how suddenly that will come upon people's lives, transform the world. We've talked about technologies like molecular manufacturing that we don't really hear anybody talking about because you can't point to it. It's just a theoretical concept at the moment. But when it comes, it will be used to conquer the world. Talk about a shock. Talk about a sudden change. People will go from living in the current world we see with nation states to a global empire overnight. We'll see a shocking amount of destruction when that happens. Guys, all of these changes are coming very suddenly. Technology, the advancement of technology is behind much of that. And the Bible foretold all of this in the past, guys. We see the signs Jesus and the prophets pointed to, and that means Jesus is coming, and he's coming soon. So guys, make sure you're sharing the good news with as many people as possible. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below, and God willing, I'll see you on Monday. Bye.